and give him a phone call. I could do that. Ooh, I gotta check this one out. This one looks good. This one looks good.
Yeah.
Vicky, you're on another one of my podcasts. This is awesome.
I'm so excited. Can I tell
really
you
too.
that your Leadership Lockdown series, that was the first podcast that I ever participated in.
Really?
Yeah, and it was kind of like this effect where you kicked it off, and then I don't know how many podcasts I've done. Look, I have a mic now. You're really
Right.
wearing
You
off
got your
on
headphones?
me.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you got your headphones. Well, you know what? It's what I do. I create stars. It's what I do. I mean, I'm humble about it. I'm like the most humble about it, but
Absolutely.
I blink and excellence happens. Yeah. No. That's because when I blink, it's many dreams. And every time I blink, dreaming excellence. Okay, good. Reality? Okay, I'm getting there.
You're molding the future leaders of our industry, Aaron Bolton.
And that's what
And
I want
you've
to
been
talk to
doing
you
that for a
about,
long
America.
time.
I want to talk to you about this, America. Awesome. Vicky, you want me to go ahead and kick this off? You ready to do this?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm excited. And you can hear me pretty well?
I can hear
Awesome.
you well.
That's the biggest thing I'm always worried about. How funny is that? I'm always worried that people aren't able to hear me. This guy, the loudest guy, really says a lot about my background, about like what I do, my focuses. Can you hear me? Good. Whew. Awesome. Welcome. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that this is going to be a surprise for you too, about which one I picked.
That is what I want to make sure everyone understands. But I will kick it off. Welcome everyone. Yes, welcome everyone to 38 at 38. In 38 years of my life, I have had 38 jobs. Don't be too jealous. There are some really special reasons why. That's why I think this is the best thing that I laugh about it. That here I am, a leadership development coach, right? This is what I do. And someone might be clicking around saying, oh, I've heard about it. Let me check out this podcast. He's had 38 jobs. But it comes with it. It gives me experience. And there's definitely specific reasons why I've had so many jobs. But what this podcast is all about is talking about your worst jobs, your craziest job stories, because we've all had them. And my wonderful guest today is Vicky Bruns. She is, Vicky, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. And thank you so much, Aaron, for having me on your show. I am also 38. So I know we have that in common as well. Mm-hmm. How funny. I work at ConnectWise. I'm a manager on our ecosystem team. And really what that means is that I've helped to work with vendors and strategically partnering with ConnectWise, and then making our partner in the IT Nation community aware of all of the awesome integrations that these vendor partners have. And then, by the way, there are a few that can be transacted through our e-commerce platform, the ConnectWise Marketplace, or through our sales teams as well.
Vicky, you can definitely tell you've done a few podcasts. You've got it down pat.
As they say in North Florida, this ain't my first rodeo.
This ain't my first rodeo. No, it's almost like you're like one of those kids at one of those beauty pageants where it's like they have everything recorded. Like they know exactly. Like, their mom's like, now you say it like this. And you're like, you've got it down scripted perfectly. It's awesome.
Right.
Very
well,
cool.
World peace, let's talk about the pageant years.
Were you in pageants when you were a kid?
No.
Oh, we just changed the whole podcast, y'all. It's just going to be about your pageant days. Awesome. So the way we roll this out is we do a little banter. This is what we're doing. We're bantering. People like the banter. And my guest, which is Vicky, my wonderful guest, talks about their worst job story, their most ridiculous job story, because that's one thing we all have in common. We all have we all have our own most ridiculous job story. We talk back and forth about that. And then my wonderful guest, Vicky, she's already decided, she's chosen which job she wants me to talk about, but she doesn't know the name of the job. She doesn't know where I work, my position. All she's been given are different quotes that pertain to the jobs that I've had. And I don't know which quote she's picked. I don't know which job she's going to ask me to expand upon. But after she gets done talking about her story, she's going to tell me that quote. And then I'm going to tell you my story. It's going to be fun, I'm sure. Fingers crossed, it's going to be fun.
I see how this works. I start off, I tell you about my story first, and then you wow the audience. You come in with this amazing ending.
Yeah,
to just say
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You come up saying, I saved the president. And then I come up and I'm like, well, I saved 2 presidents. And and both of them were on fire. And it was in a tornado and a lava. A big volcano. It was in Pompeii.
Yeah. You got him out with a helicopter, and The Rock. The Rock was there. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock was there. He was my sidekick.
Yeah.
He was my sidekick.
I could see that. That could be a movie. Yeah.
He was like, anything you want, brother. And I was like, yes, that's right. I've got a picture of when I was 16, 17 years old that I look like The Rock. And I'm not saying that like I'm like, oh. I'm not saying that, and every time I tell someone that, they're like, okay, Aaron, but then they look at it and they're like, oh, but it's just all camera perspective. It's like an up angle, and I'm like, I had some posture on and I was looking down like I was about to say jabroni, I had one of those looks on, but I was just missing all.
It sounds like that may have to be your profile picture for this episode.
Had I time, you know what? I might, post-credit scene. I'm always looking for a post-credit scene. Yeah, we're going to be like Marvel up in this piece. We're going to have all these post-credit scenes. So that might be in there. So what is your story, Vicky? I'm excited. Well, first let me ask you, do you know how many jobs you've had? I should have asked you this before. I'm going to start putting that in like an email question. Hey, how many jobs? But just take a wild guess if you could. Well, I know.
I can tell you it hasn't been 38. Are we talking about maybe even things that we did before we could legally be paid to have jobs?
Well, it depends on what do you mean by legally paid. And the answer is yes.
Because I definitely worked some summer camps in my day. Under the table, working at horse camps. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that definitely counts. So the way I describe a job is anything that you do for, not just like a one-time, I helped a chore. It's not a chore. You're not doing it. Your customers aren't necessarily like your friends and family. Like, oh, yeah, every time, Aaron comes around, I buy a candy bar from him. I don't know why I went to that. I don't think that example cleared anything up, by the way. Well, maybe Aaron sold candy, but no, anything that you for sustain, like you have customers that rely on you, and there's like a transaction happening.
Mm-hmm.
You are actually giving some type of product or some type of service. So I would think, working at a horse farm. I don't know, a horse ranch.
Yeah, summer camp. Yeah. So cool. I would say probably about 20.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not bad.
No,
that's not bad. There's no. What's the rubric? That's not bad. Awesome. So 20 jobs, and this is your worst or one of your worst job stories, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So let me start off with saying that this was an organization that I absolutely loved. Was actually the catalyst for me getting into sales and really understanding that that's where I wanted to go in my career journey, and sales and marketing, I guess you can say. That being said, I had just graduated from college. I went to the University of Florida. This is a health and fitness center that's in Gainesville. And so there was an aspect to the job that I didn't like, but I did it because I was just trying to make more money and pay my rent. if you know what I mean.
Which is
Yeah.
what's like famous last words or like famous things you say like on a stand in court. I was just trying
to make money. Yeah, make ends meet.
Make ends meet.
Right. Yeah, so I actually started off, and let me tell you, this place that I worked at, the interview process was extremely extensive. You had to go through 3 rounds of interviews. And the first interview was a group interview. And they would give you these scenarios in this group environment, and it was just kind of like the Hunger Games. Who's the one that's going to end up on top or not?
Everyone had a rose. Was it like the Bachelor? You had a rose.
Yeah. And so once you passed the group interview, you went on to the individual interview, and that was more of like your standard interview that you'd have really probably anywhere today.
Wait. When you say group interview, do you mean multiple candidates?
Yes.
What? Oh,
yes.
That's rough.
Oh, yeah.
What is this, Men in Black 1? Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, and it was really interesting. So I made it on to the second interview, and again, I'm
sorry. I'm gonna interrupt you again. I apologize.
No.
People are gonna be like, "Why are you interrupting?"
Questions. This is great.
Okay. In 38 years of my life and 38 jobs, I've never had a group interview. So I am so astonished by this. So how did that interview process go? Was it like, how many people were interviewing?
There were about 5 of us that were being interviewed at the same time.
How many people were actually conducting the interview?
2.
So 2 versus 5.
Mm-hmm.
And was it like the dating game? Was it like, contestant number 1? Tell us
a little bit about yourself.
Tell us a little bit. Well, if we were going to go, if you came across a very stressful situation with another employee, how would you handle it?
Yeah, it was like that. And also,
oh my goodness.
And also, there wasn't really a lot of time for everybody to engage, and so they were also looking for initiative. If you were kind of stepping up and being a little bit more competitive or upfront about what your answer was, then
but not too competitive.
Right?
It can be like a question on number 1, and number 1's like, well, and number 3's like, hey, I can answer that. You're taking too long, buddy.
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
And they also presented scenarios, and you would have to give your input on what you believed was the best answer for that scenario.
And this was a health and wellness.
Yes. This was a fitness center that is if you live in the Gainesville area or in Alachua in Florida.
Right. Oh, Alachua.
Then you'll know. But it's the largest fitness center in Gainesville, and the coach's wife for the University of Florida football team was a spin instructor there.
Oh,
yeah,
that's intense.
Oh, and John Travolta had a gym membership because he lived in Ocala. Yeah, so it was very interesting.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's right. He lives in Ocala, and he had that. He lived in that neighborhood in Ocala that had like a runway. It had like people in the neighborhood had airplanes, and they can just like either taxi out onto the runway and take off. That's wild. Florida is so weird.
It's a great state. You never know.
Of course, John Travolta. Of course, John Travolta has ties with Florida. Of course, he does. It just makes sense.
Yeah, so the group interview was interesting, and the second interview. Have you ever gone into an interview? I'm sure if you've had 38 jobs, you've been in an interview where you walk out and you say, "That didn't go so great."
Just 1 or 2 or many,
right? Yeah. All right. So going back to you joking around about my intro and saying that it sounded like a pageant answer. This is kind of one of those other pageant scenarios where the interviewer asked me, how would you define integrity? Okay. Again, I'm a little nervous. I've made it through the first round, right? The second round of Hunger Games. This is, I can't remember what the second Hunger Games movie is, but so they said, tell us about what the definition of integrity means. My answer was, oh my God, I don't really know what it means. But Oprah Winfrey, she has a lot of integrity. So it would be something like that.
Mama always said. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're feeling pretty confident right now.
Feeling really confident about saying Oprah Winfrey has a ton of integrity, and that's my answer.
That's great. That's great. You're not lying. You're not lying.
Yeah. I mean, she's got a lot more going for her than just integrity. Let's be honest.
Integrity. But she's got integrity. She's got integrity.
She does.
Right.
Yeah. So technically it wasn't a wrong answer. I just
right. No, not at all.
Left it there.
I'm not sure exactly, but I know it begins with an I.
Next question, please.
Next question. Okay, so then what happened?
Okay.
This is good.
I made it through the second round, and then the third round was a workout interview.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is like a gym. This is like a all right, gotcha.
Yeah, you got to pass the test. So it really wasn't about whether or not you could actually make it through the entire row of machines, but it was that when you go to a gym, there's certain gyms that have those rows where you start with like the large muscles and then you graduate to like the smaller muscles, and you're going until you hit that muscle fatigue.
Right.
Yeah. And so the idea of it was just don't give up and keep trying. And as long as you're showing that effort, then you're going to pass the test.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Yeah, it went pretty well.
Okay, good. Of course.
But I mean, I was really sore for like the next week, and I didn't pass out. So that's good. I'd heard other people had passed out when they were doing the third round of the interview.
So they want to make sure that you know how to use the equipment. You're familiar with the equipment, that you're not going to be like, one rep done.
Right. Exactly.
That's would they do that in a restaurant? Okay. So listen, we need to make sure you know how to talk to people. So I need you to go wait that table. I need you to go wait that table. I need you to go in the back and I want you to prepare me some duck à l'orange. What's this? That's great. You're almost setting up a reality show is what they had going on there.
Am I?
Like it sounds like who's going to get the job? Workout. Who can work out? All right. So
yeah. So after the third interview, I got the job. So I started out as a front desk receptionist, which my job was to just say hello and goodbye to everybody, check people in. That's when I found out about John Travolta having a membership. Now, he never came in when I was working. Apparently, he was always coming in in the middle of the night because it was a 24-hour
right
gym, right? So
wait, all of that interview process, and it was for the receptionist job?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to minimize the job of a receptionist, but because, you at a gym, you do have to be very strong when someone says, I'd like to cancel. And then you'd be like, are you sure you want to cancel? Let me introduce you to so-and-so who just wants to talk to you a little bit more. You want to cancel? Well, maybe you're not using the equipment right.
Joey, lock the doors. Just kidding.
Lock the door. The worst thing to cancel is in a gym. Worst thing to cancel is a gym membership.
It is. Yeah. So even the janitor position, which is ultimately what I ended up picking up as an additional shift to to make ends meet. Yeah. And it was cleaning the women's locker room. So showers, toilets, you name it.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, hey, I got to say, I was pretty impressed with keeping that locker room pretty spotless.
That is a rough. Any weird or any crazy stories of you cleaning up or anything you've come across? Or?
Oh, I don't know if I can go too far into detail, but I can tell you that I have definitely, probably cleaned thousands of DNA samples out of shower drains.
I hope the recording shows this, and I hope if you're watching, you go back and look at this, because when I asked that question, I know I winced. I was like, "Anything crazy you saw while cleaning up?" No, no.
Do you really
The
want
answer
to know?
is yes.
I'll tell you.
No,
Yeah.
the answer is yes. Oh no, I kind of don't. So how long did you work there?
I worked there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
2 years, but I didn't stay in the janitor gig for very long. I held on as long as I could. I ended up ultimately becoming one of the sales counselors that you talk to about canceling and locking into a long-term commitment at the gym.
You want to quit? Sounds like you just need maybe some one-on-one attention. Let me get you set up with a personal trainer. We're going to give you 3 sessions for free. And, and then those 3 sessions, those personal trainers, I'm sure they know, like, all right, this is session 1, 2, and 3. I got to be extremely motivated. Wow, you're doing such a great job. And then so they feel all pumped up and they don't cancel, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard that a couple times.
It's all about the follow through, right?
Right.
And it's interesting because yesterday I was doing a little research before our podcast, and I found my old emails from literally 14 years ago, right? This is when I was working at this gym, and 15 years ago. And my signature line on my email was, "There is no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs."
Ooh. Oh, hold on. I rarely do this, but just keep rolling. Hold on.
Are you going to bring some stairs out?
I'm always taking notes, and I didn't have my notebook in front of me, and I felt kind of like a little naked without my notebook. And then right when you said that quote, I'm like, nope, need it. Let's see. There's no elevator to success, only escalator. Only
or stairs. Elevators.
I like that. I like that. I like that. There's no elevator to success, only stairs. You got to put in the work.
You do.
You got to put in that work.
Got to put in the sweat equity. The sweat
right, and that equity. That is a very gym employee thing to have on your signature.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All pain, all gain. Okay, I don't think that's the saying, but all right, I'll go with it.
I had a mold of fat, 5 pounds of fat and 5 pounds of muscle in my office that were great selling tools to get potential customers to lock in for a longer commitment.
Because the mold of fat's like this big, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, you had to hold it with like 2 hands, and you could like jiggle it, and it looked very lifelike. It was wonderful.
Now, this was in just because we're the same age, so I'm guessing this is in like the mid-aughts, like 2004, 2005, or early aughts or whatever. Was that where it's around?
Yeah, this was 2008. 2000. Yeah.
So around 2004 to 2008. Around there, 2003, 2010, that was like the boom of network marketing companies, right? The pyramid schemes, and I was invited because, of course, personality, but I was invited for so many amazing job opportunities or amazing career opportunity where I would go to some hotel and some conference room, and then someone was like, "And you can do it too," and there was at least 3 that I went to, 3 different companies. I didn't work for these. I didn't join up, but 3 different companies where they showed the block of fat. Like that was like hot commodity back then. Like, oh, you got a block of fat, and it was like a block of fat. So I remember seeing this big block of fat. So, and I would guess like the 5 pounds of muscle was like small, right?
Yeah, it was more compact.
More compact, more dense.
And not as jiggly.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Well, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. Well, which one gives me the most fun? Because because getting to that fat, that sounds like a lot of fun getting to that fat. Num.
And what was really funny is that when I got to that stage at this health and fitness center where I was actually selling, I was a sales counselor. Right next door, there was a chocolate store.
Of course. It's like next to Weight Watchers is Baskin and Robbins.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and it was I think it's called Peterbrook chocolate.
Oh, nice. That sounds
where
good.
they have the popcorn and then they drizzle the chocolate onto the popcorn. And so I always felt like I had like a stash of drugs on me though, whenever I was coming back into the gym, because you never wanted to be caught eating chocolate or something bad when you're trying to sell a vision of health and fitness. And
I wonder if that's like one of the marketing or one of like the scouting when they're scouting for locations, if like where are like, is there, let's get next to like a bad, like a place with not the best options. But of course, in America, we're so over like flowing with indulgence. You can put a gym anywhere. I bet they don't even, you just put a gym anywhere and it's going to be next to something that's probably not good for you. You know, probably. Right. Yeah. So
like a fried chicken, fast food joint or something.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the different gyms in my area. And I'm like, yeah, but every plaza is like that. What if gyms are out there like, we just want to get a location where there's no crap around us, where there's no bad garbage? Not going to happen. So is there a lesson learned? Did you learn a lesson, or is there anything that you gained from that experience that you've taken with you throughout your years, or you've realized you've gone back and you've said, oh, like a mental anchor is like, oh, that always reminds you of that position, that job?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest lesson that I learned is that you're never too good to do anything that you've got to do to put food on the table.
That's
and
right.
It's a very humbling experience, and treat everybody with kindness, because you never know. I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of jobs out there that are hard and they're tough and they're dirty and they're not fun, but they're keeping our economy running. And tell people that you appreciate them for what they do.
That's so true.
Yeah, and it ultimately became a launching point for what I ended up doing and finding out what I love to do, which is working with people and selling things and making that connection. And so that's where I learned about Zig Ziglar. And I don't know if you remember the book, The Dip.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Do you remember The Dip?
This is an old. Wow. We are aging ourselves. We're
I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, first by saying Zig Ziglar.
That was a great book.
By saying Zig Ziglar. Right now, when I do like teach classes or like a course of whatever, often especially when it comes up to communications, I'll bring up Zig Ziglar because he's the GOAT, greatest of all time. He is the GOAT, and it's a shame that people don't know too much about him, because he passed away, I think in 2005, 2006. So if you don't know about Zig Ziglar, great content. His very last speaking performance was here in Tampa. And or like one of the last maybe couple, and it was like a whole bunch of leaders came to the sports arena, whatever it was called back then, but now it's called like the Amalie. It might even change name, but the Ice Palace or the Sports Forum or whatever it's been called. And it was a bunch of Peter Lowe was there, Steve Forbes was there. He spoke, and like the closer, like so many great speakers, and the closer was Zig Ziglar, and he came up there with his daughter, and he was already in his 80s, I think, and he wasn't all there. He wasn't all there, and but it was just so he was passionate because he's been speaking about it for so many years. I mean, you're talking about he's 80. He's been doing these talks since he was like mid-20s. I mean, it was on almost like autopilot, but it was still with the passion. But he kept forgetting where he was. Like forgetting like the place, like not the physical location, but in his story. And he kept going back to every time he lost his place, he kept going back to something he would preach or talk about all the time, which is dating your wife or dating your significant other. If you want to keep the love, you want to keep the spark in your relationship, there's a lot of craziness around you, but you got to make sure to keep dating your significant other. Do what you did to get that person, to make that person, to keep that romance alive. In the beginning, continue doing that. And it was just like heartbreaking because his wife had passed away, and was like, you got to date your wife, guys, everyone out there. and it was like, oh, like heartbreaking, and it was really moving. But yeah, it was a great experience. So 2012, yeah, he passed away 2012. By the way, producer Phil is amazing and always like fact checking me and like throwing me some good stuff. So I love it. All right, so cool.
Great job, Phil.
All right, so we've got a little bit of time. So, what's this this quote? What's this quote? And I'm a little nervous too. I'm nervous on all these, but what quote did you pick out?
Oh, don't be nervous.
And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the quote that I picked was, "What they don't want to tell you is that the internet is just a fad."
This is a fun one. This is a my first step. I don't want to. Yeah, like a professional sales. This is my first. Outside of retail sales. This is my first job, and it's a very, very old sentence I'm about to say. Okay,
I'm ready for it.
I used to sell Yellow Page ads.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yellow Page ads. So for instance, 10 years ago, that really thick book that people would get on their doorstep and then immediately throw away in the garbage because that was the use of it, just to weigh down your garbage. Those are Yellow Pages. If people out there don't know, it's, as a matter of fact, I just did like a stupid little Instagram story. You know what? Post-credit scene. Put that out there because we received a Yellow Pages on our front doorstep like about a month ago. I was like, what does this know? Do they know internet's alive? Like, we don't.
Wait. Here's my question though. How thick was the book?
Which one? The one recently? The one I just got?
The one recently.
It was a mere 3/4 of an inch. Three-quarters, because the book that I worked in was Verizon Yellow Pages. And everyone was like, it wasn't even like, we had to do it in campaigns, right? Because you can't just sell in the book the whole time because it's got to get printed, right? So there'd be certain seasons where I was selling in the Tampa book, the big book, as people called it. It was the big book. It was boom. It was thick. It was meaty. To give you an idea of how much money, and I like telling this story. I've told this part multiple times. How successful this huge thick book is. How successful it is in lawyers. Lawyers was always the section that was the thickest, that had like the most. And then there was lawyers, and then a whole bunch of full page color ads. I believe when I was there, it was 43 full page color ads just under lawyers. And to get closer to the front, you had to get in. So if you paid money straight, it wasn't alphabetical order. If you said, yeah, I want a full page color, you'd pay for it, and then you'd be number 44 in that page. And then the only way to move up is if other people drop off, and then you'd be able to move up. And then that's just lawyers. There was like 44 full page colors, and then there was a whole bunch of 3/4 page, half page, and going down. And then lawyers, divorce, lawyers, child, lawyers, all these, and they all had full page color. And that was just in lawyers. I say all that because for a full page color ad was something around $12,000 a year, or $12,000. $12,000 to have a full page color ad in this book. There were 43 of them just in lawyers, let alone the other subcategories in lawyers, let alone all the other categories in the book. It was a big book. Like, it brought in some stupid money. And I
have a question for you.
Okay, let's go.
So, were you in charge of a category?
No.
Or was it the whole shebang?
So I was in charge of, I had accounts. It was basically just accounts. And they could have been like garbage all the way down to like they spend $10 a month or something like that, all the way up to, there were different levels, the different tier levels. And I wasn't like up at the hot topic, the hot top. It was like they would call them premise, was like the big ones. And those guys, those were like the rock stars. They wouldn't come in at like 9:00 when everyone else had to. They would come in around 11 because they were at an office doing a sale. They were in a sales call. They were on the premise. They got company cars Like this
Oh,
is back when they had come. I mean, but then you think about
were they yellow?
oh, that would have been great. They were all bright yellow. Oh crap! The stinking yellow page guy is here. Let me lock up for the day. How'd you know it was coming? Blinding. But no, it would be great if they were yellow. But those people were like the premise salespeople, and everyone wanted to be those people. But I sat in the cubicle, and I was 23 years old, and I made a stupid amount of money. I worked there for a year. The reason I worked there for a year, and I made a stupid amount of money, is at 23 years old, at any age, it was stressful. I mean, I'm sitting here 23 making the same amount of money that like the person next to me who is like married and has like a wife maybe that stays at home with kids. So that means he is providing for the family. And I'm making the same amount of money as that guy at 23. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And not only that, stressful. So, I mean, it was like 40 hours a week. You could not work more than 40 hours a week, which is weird for like sales. You know, it's like, whoa, nope, 40 hours a week because you also got paid an hourly. I think I was getting paid like $10 an hour plus commission. We didn't even count the hourly. Wasn't even counted. It was just like, that was just whatever, just for showing up. Benefits were great. Vacation was great. Everything sounded about it sounded great. But then there's the catch, right? If all those things are amazing, there's some catch, and it was stressful. I mean, in those 40 hours a week you were there, you were work. They I mean, came down like you had to do. And I said this in another interview, in a future interview where we know each other. But I said this in an interview when they asked about, if I have any sales experience making calls and whatnot. And I told them, I said, yeah. I said, look, at Yellow Pages, I had to do 100 calls a day, period, or 3 hours of talk time. So I had to be on the phone for 3 hours or make 100 dials a day. And the people in that interview said, nope, that's not, no, you didn't. That's a lie. Like, no, that was, I had to. Like, no. But it was stressful. If your numbers weren't getting in, you could be blowing it up, but you can be blowing it up more. Like, it was really stressful.
Like the boiler room. Right.
It was pretty, it wasn't that intense, but it was pretty intense. My boss, Rob Schreiber, he was like, it was his first, I was his first management, or he was a first time manager, and he'd been with the company for a while, and I was on his team. Super cool. I've actually still kept in touch with him years and years later. He lives 5 minutes away from me now. So every now and then we run into each other. We talk. He was, I looked up to him, and he was a fun, cool guy. I would go to the Dollar Store with him during lunch sometimes, and he'll just grab like a whole bunch of goofy little prizes where, hey, you close a sale, you get something, you get to pick from this. It was like a treasure box. Yeah, you get to pick from the treasure box. And it was fun. We got a connection. We would go on lunch. First of all, we take like an hour and a half lunch, 2 hour lunch, me and him, and we'd go to like a big parking lot that was next to it, and we'd grab some food, and we sit there in his car, and we'd feed squirrels, and we just talk crap. Every now and then we would take a nap. I'm 23 years old. I didn't realize it. And yeah, Rob was just like, I'm gonna take a nap real quick, man. You gonna take a nap? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. You're my boss, and I don't want to walk back in the heat. So we take a nap. It was so weird. It was so weird. That
is really interesting. Did you also do training with the rest of the team and have like those like scripted kind of trainings where you would do a role play in front of everyone?
Yes, we did every night. Yeah, we did. This was like the first. This was, I think, I think this was my last job that had nothing to do with training, like me being a facilitator of training. This is the last one that it was just pure sales. That was it. Every other job since then had some type of element of training, all the way to that's all I do. And it was wild, because this is not too long after the internet really became a thing, right? Internet was a thing in 96. People started like actually jumping on the internet, right? And this was 2006. This is 10 years later, right? 2006, 2005, something like this. 10 years later. So I would call my job was to look at my accounts, call certain accounts, and increase their spend in the book. Right. So hey, you got to sign back in. Let's get you more. And one thing that they just had released was superpages.com. And superpages.com was like, it was like the yellowpages.com or something. It was like the Yellow Pages online. It was almost like a Yelp, like the early stage of Yelp. And we had to sell people, like it was the commission was much higher if we sold people in the Yellow Page, in superpages.com. That makes sense because it's less money, that less cost involved. So my job was to get people online, or that was a big part of it. I definitely would want to get people online, and it would pay just for like something really small, like a real small online ad would get me, in a day, $250 for like by noon. So when you're 23 years old, that's how you start. That's how I started like calculating things. I was like, okay, so if I want to make a certain amount of money, I need to hit certain things in that day. And my now wife, then girlfriend, would call me up, and it was so stressful. And it was so focused on that dollar, like go. Our conversations ended up being, oh, how are you doing today? And I would say, I would give a dollar amount. That dollar amount of how much commission I've made during the day. And I'd say something like, it's all right. I'm only at $150, it's all right. Which is in the early 2000s, it's all right for 20. I've only at 150. That's where my mindset was constantly, before my frontal lobe was able to fully close up and reasoning took place. It was just about money. And the conversations I would often get into were, like talking to, specifically one pops out where it was a pool company, a small mom and pop's pool company. And I'm talking to a guy, he's been in the Yellow Pages forever, for a long time. And slowly he's been increasing his ad size. So now it's my turn to talk to him and, increase that ad size. And I start talking to him about it. And I said, well, let me tell you about superpages.com. Superpages, what? I was like, superpages.com. And I start telling him about the internet. And he's like, internet, let me tell you something about the internet. Okay. I've been in the pool business for some odd, 40 years. And this whole, I've seen things come and I've seen things go. And I'll tell you right now, this internet is going to be like just like the rest of them. It's going to go. It's just a fad. You just wait. You mark my words, buddy. This internet, it will not be around for very much longer. Okay. Like am I being punked right now? This is definitely the future, right? It's like, no. I said, all right. And so I did what every salesperson would do. Like, well, I can see where you think that way. But if you're saying that the book works, then let's go ahead and increase that spend in that book. Let's go ahead and get you. Who cares about that? You're right. I just need to. You're right. You're absolutely right. Internet's a fad. I'm sorry.
Classic pivot.
Right. Pivot.
I like it.
Pivot. Yeah, of course. It's, why? You're right. You're right. Why would get it in that book? Now that's what I'm talking. And you increase the spend in the book. I'm like, yeah. And I heard that so many times, especially trying to push the internet in the early days of the internet. Oh my goodness, this is a very old story. I can't wait to tell this story to my grandkids. Well, I was selling the internet when the internet was just a wee little baby.
Hey, Shanish, sit down. Let me tell you a tale about your grandpa.
Let me tell you a tale about superpages.com. It was Verizon.com. It's so funny. They changed their name. They sold or went through rebranding or something. They wanted to move, I guess, away from the name of Verizon. I don't know. It was the largest telecommunications, company in the United States. Let's move away from there. And then they changed the name to IDARC. It was supposed to be, a combination of idea and arc. So arcing the ideas. There's a reason why you never heard about it before. It was a dumb idea. It was a dumb ID arc. That's what we kept calling it. We were like, this is a stupid ID arc. This is a stupid ID arc for us to do. But I ended up leaving that job. My numbers were great. My sales numbers were great. Often like number one on my team. And I had a couple days where I hit over 3 hours, but I didn't hit the call metrics, like the number of calls, which I was like, well, I've done one or the other. What's the problem? Yeah, well, it stemmed from me like a mentor of mine now. He's still a mentor. I had to have a conversation with him. He was going through something. We had it was like a 45-minute conversation. And mind you, I didn't take much of a lunch that day. And then I got talked about it. I even made great sales that day, but they were like, well, you were on the phone for too long. I was like, I get it. This is an emergency. It won't happen again. But then their eyes were on me. And then and I was like, it was stressful. I didn't feel like this is what I wanted to do at all. Even to the point, so if they ran a sales competition, and if you got this certain sales competition, then on Friday it wasn't just dress down, but you can like dress in shorts. Ooh, so the little corporate things people dangle. Hey,
I remember those things. Yep.
You want to wear tube socks today? Just dumb things. So, the senior or the vice president of sales, her office was just a shot away from me. She was this lady from Texas, and she was like old school lady from Texas. And you'd think she'd be sweet. She was not. She was like cutthroat, and she seemed all sweet and everything in front of everyone, all happy, but cutthroat. And I won one of those competitions one time. And of course, I'm like, woohoo, hey! We went to Busch Gardens for a team trip, and I won like a little turtle, right? Little turtle. Now, this is before I knew I legit had ADHD or ADD. So I took the turtle and put a string on it, and I hung it from the ceiling. So when I'm on the phone, I can lean back and bat at it like I was
a cat?
Like a cat. Right. I was sitting there, bat. Now here's the funny thing. Numbers were up, sales were good, but people were like, Aaron's different. Oh, let's get on to him. I was batting a cat. I was batting a turtle like I'm a little cat. It's ridiculous. So eyes were on me.
I could absolutely see you doing that.
Of course.
That's the funny thing.
And it just gets my mind. It's just something to get me focused, I guess. So anyways,
you were batting at the turtle. I was jiggling 5 pounds of fat.
That's right.
Fat in my office.
Right? The things we do for money. So I won that contest one day, and she says, I got to wear shorts. So I came in the next day like a t-shirt, and I wore a pair of like basketball shorts. I'm like, whatever. But basketball shorts are obviously not work appropriate, but I'm like young. I'm not going to wear like those khaki shorts that come above the knees. Like I'm an adult, like I'm a square, because I was in the 80s and 70s, but I wore like the basketball shorts. And Rob, my boss, came up to me. He's like, hey, you need to change. Like, I don't even change. I don't have a change of shorts. He's like, all right, well, just never wear those shorts again. Why is that? He said, because the VP came to me and said, what's Aaron wearing? Can you talk to him? I see him walking around and his twig and bears are just bouncing.
Oh my God.
That was her quote from her. I was like, first of all, embarrassed, completely embarrassed. Like, even if my boss told me that, it came from like the senior VP. Oh, it was not comfortable. So they finally got on to me like 2 times in 1 week. They were like, sales were up. You hit 98 calls, and sometimes I started actually keeping tally of my own calls, and I would come up and say, nope, look, I don't care what that system says. I'm well over. It just didn't record that for whatever reason. And by doing that, I started like this big hullabaloo in the whole like sales floor. It's like, wait a second, what about my sales number? Blah. So they brought me in, and I was at this point, I was stressed to the max. I had proposed to my girlfriend at that time, now my wife. I proposed to her. So I'm getting things lined up I'm proposing. I've got a job that's paying really good money. I've got things together. So when they bring me in, they say, hey, listen, so we need to, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to excel here? Do you want, and it wasn't like we want you on our team. It was like, you got to figure things out. And I told them, I said, you know what? I guess this just isn't the place for me. And that was my manager and my manager's another manager, because 2 people. I guess I was getting.
Oh, of course, right.
And she was like, "What?" Like, she wasn't expecting that. She looked at Rob, and Rob goes, "Hold on, buddy." I said, "No. It's obviously not for me. This is obviously not for me. I'm not being fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm being fulfilled at all. Mm-hmm. I said, I don't think I've done anything wrong. I said, I've proved that I've done things right. My sales are up. I'm making good money. I said, I don't know why I keep getting hit down. I said, I look at the call numbers because they're public. I said, I'm definitely not the only one, or like by far, there's a lot of people. It's just, why am I getting called out? Well, and then they started backpedaling. Oh, well, I said, you know what? I just don't think this is for me. I don't think maybe I'm ready for this or whatnot. I just don't think this is for me. Okay, well, just think about it. Just think about it. Next morning came in. At this time, we had a new vice president, and he came in and tried to sell me hard. His son was actually in my training class, which, by the way, my training for new hires, 8 weeks long. You could not miss one day. Matter of fact, I couldn't miss. No, you can miss 2 days. It was go, go, go. The last day of class, which was only a half day, I get a phone call from my wife. This gets dark and deep real quick. I get a phone call from my wife the last day of training in the morning. She's crying. Someone who we go to church with has committed suicide. Someone who we're close with. I start bawling, and I'm telling the lady, I'm like, can I go? Everything's wrapped up. No one's doing anything. We're going to have lunch and then leave. And I said, and I'm sobbing, and I asked her, I'm not good here. Can I leave? And she goes, Aaron, you got to stay until the end. I was like, oof. What do you, like, we have 2 hours. We're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. And at lunch, we had to go around. I'm pissed. And we're going around. She's like, I feel bad because she's a trainer. She's just trying to do her job. And she's like, everyone, go ahead and say something that you've learned that you're going to carry on to the next. Woo! They were scared getting to me. And I was like, listen, I realize jobs suck. No one wants to be here. No one wants to be at a job. We all want to be able to do our own thing. I get that. But I guess if I had to have a job, this one's not that bad. And I was like, and I was like the last one of two people to talk. And everyone was like, I'm going to do this with my new career. And I was like, I guess whatever. Next. Next. And they were like, okay. And then I didn't say bye to anyone, and I took off. So
that's interesting. So that was the red flag, right? Yeah. I mean, it's so important. So I know I was joking around a lot about this health and fitness center that I work for, but it was a great experience. And also I fell in some personal hard times when I worked there, and they were there to help me and support me. That's professionally really cool. And personally. And I think that that's what really matters, is if you can find a job that can kind of give you what you need. Oh, you know?
Well, what I realized is at that point in time, that's right. So I knew I was teaching at church, and I knew I liked to teach church. I like to teach kids, right? I knew that. I was like, oh, I love to teach. And I didn't know, how specified. So I wanted to be a teacher. I did not have a degree to be a teacher, but I wanted to be a teacher. I knew that. And the next day when I went and talked to the other new vice president, his son was in the training class with me. His son used to be a teacher, and I knew him. And he said, my son, you were in training class. I said, yeah, I know. He said, he used to be a teacher. I said, right. He goes, you know why he quit? I said, why is that? Because $38,000 a year sucks. Now, do you want to go ahead and live near poverty? Okay. All right. That long ago, $38,000. Even now, $38,000 isn't near poverty. Okay, I've been close to that in my lifetime. That's not, poverty. That's not it. And I said, listen, I would rather bet on myself than put all the chips on myself than someone else. And he was like, and he tried to sell me hard. Like, it was like, I didn't even barely know him, but it was just like more of a win, competition. He wanted to win. And when I was finally, he goes, all right, fine. You know what? Fine. I said, so 2 weeks? He goes, no, you know what? We'll just pay you 2 weeks. Why don't you just go ahead and leave now? Okay, you got it. So that was me. And then I left directly from there and got hired in. That's another story for another day. Look at that.
Ooh, good segue.
Thank you so very much. So what I've learned is just that. What I've learned is what I've brought on, what I took from that experience on and taken on, your mental health and your health is well more important than working for somebody else and making sure to do something for somebody else. Not saying you can't work a crappy job and have something like work on yourself and have mental health, but I wasn't there at that age, at that stage in my life. But I did get that lesson that you have to make sure that you're in a good headspace, and you can't keep yourself in a situation is that's negative or that's bringing you down.
That's not good for you.
It's not good for you.
I think when you're young too, I mean, I think you and I are very, very similar in that respect, that we're just very driven. We'll just go for it kind of people. And when you're young and you're driven, you're willing to throw yourself you're willing to throw yourself into anything,
right,
and drive yourself into the ground. I mean, from just working all the time.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's very important to have a grounding and to be able to find that balance.
Right. Well, yeah.
For your own sanity and for your family's sanity too.
100%. Because me and you, we're about success. That's part of our behaviors, right? We've done DISC. We like success. We like to see that success. We like to see,
it's a great assessment, by the way. If you haven't tried it, go find it.
Call me up. But it's that success. But that success in the journey of trying to conquer or grab that success, you could lose sight of what's really the true definition of success, and that's that inner connectedness, right? That feeling whole, feeling like not sacrificing your inner well-being for some outward success, right? You always have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. So there's my story. There's my crazy story, and there's a few other stories. I'm gonna have some other quotes. There's some other quotes, some other guests that might. A quote will be another story, another few stories, but I've got a bunch of crazy stories. Waffle Wednesday? You remember Waffle Wednesday?
I do remember Waffle Wednesday.
It started here. I told no one about it. I just ended up showing up with a bunch of griddles one day that I bought and and they were like, what the, and it was including eggs. I would make eggs to order, and I loved it. I loved it. But
Waffle Wednesday was really great. Bagel Friday.
Bagel Friday's money. Yeah.
Do you remember Bagel Friday?
Yeah.
And for those of you listening, this wasn't just, the schmear and the bagels. The smoked salmon
lox
for the lox.
Yeah.
The lox and bagels. It was mwah.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Hey,
I could eat that for lunch right now.
Business owners, business leaders out there, you want to do something awesome? Go ahead and invest. What? I know, because for a short period of time, I picked up the lox and the bagels, and I went to a really good place, expensive place. And I spent $150, and they reimbursed 150, maybe it's 200, but for all these bagels and the schmears and the lox and everything. And people had a grandiose time, had a great time. And that was for almost 250 people. That is not a huge investment to just put a little smile on your employees' faces, right? So
yes. Also, if you're working in a hybrid environment and you're trying to get more people into the office, that's a great way. That's a great incentive.
That's a good way to say, or even on Friday, or having just a full-blown breakfast. Hire to cater out a full breakfast. Hey, come on in. We're gonna have a big thing, but you just stay here and work. All right, that's it. I think that's a great idea. Vicky, I thank you so much for sharing your story with me. I really do. 2-minute shower of an hour. We are right at an hour. Yes, we've done it. We've accomplished it, Vicky. Vicky, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Any final words? Anything you want to leave the audience with, or with which to leave the audience? Any grammar? You got something you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I just want to say thank you for inviting me on. It's been great sharing some stories from the past, and I haven't thought about that in years, and just kind of even doing that research last night kind of made me go down memory lane. And I ultimately found an essay that I wrote to go to grad school, which ultimately led me to Tampa and Tampa Bay, and to me meeting you and being where I am now in my life. And so it was kind of an interesting full circle, emotional trip down memory lane that I had last night. Yeah, so it was neat. So thank you.
Oh,
thank you
welcome.
For allowing me to have that.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I love talking to you. I love chatting with you. And no matter what podcast I have in the future, you will definitely be on. Even if it's some crazy, all the time podcast, I will have you on as guest number 2 again and say, oh, and what's your feelings about being all manly? And then you'll be like, Aaron, you need to stop this podcast. This is not a good
Aaron, see, I've had so much fun talking to you. I believe I missed my mark on what I actually do. So I work at ConnectWise.
Oh, I was right about to say, yeah. Tell us what you do, where they can find you. I was right about to say, sorry about that. Tell us where they can find you. If they want more information, they want to get in touch with you, how can people find you?
Yeah, I work at ConnectWise. And again, I'm a manager on the ecosystem team. If you want to check out all of the amazing third-party partnerships that we have at ConnectWise, you can go to marketplace.connectwise.com. Start learning. We offer products, services, life lessons,
nice,
peer groups, all the things through ConnectWise. So always looking forward to connecting with other managed service providers
and
in our space.
And people can find you on LinkedIn, correct? Vicky Bruns.
I am on LinkedIn.
Reach out, connect with her. Vicky Bruns. Vicky, thank you so very much. It's not Bruns anymore. You're married.
I am, but fun fact, I didn't take my husband's last name.
Cool. So, my wife didn't take my last name. Osmanovich.
Okay.
Bruns it is. Bruns it is. My wife's last name is Sepulveda, and she's Puerto Rican. And the Puerto Rican culture, it's you keep the last name. The wives keep the last name. And so me, American, beforehand, I was like, well, I want you to have my last name, blah, blah, blah. And then after we got married, she was like, okay, cool. And after we got married, she's like, things are tight. You just get married, just spend a lot of money. And she's like, oh, so I've got to go down and change my last name. I said, okay. She said, yeah, it's going to cost about $50. And I remember we're in our apartment and I go, you don't have to change your last name. So she still has her last name. So awesome.
Oh,
Vicky, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you next time. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Always a pleasure.
I hope everyone had a good time listening. I hope y'all have a great time. Enjoy the jobs that you have. And we'll see you next time. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.